Live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, and over 30 affiliates across the country. Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. Coming up on Newsnight, USAID's $150 million assistance to Ghana on hold as Trump administration closes down the developmental agency, citing lack of transparency. We have details as the action begins affecting procurement and distribution of essential health commodities in northern Ghana.
And USAID in particular, they refuse to tell us anything. We won't tell you what the money's going to, where the money's for, who has it, which contractor it's been. In some cases it goes through 4 different contractors before it reaches the intended recipient.
We have more as Ghana's health service signals critical disruption in healthcare delivery. Plus, Argentina announces intentions to become the next country after the USA to exit the World Health Organization. We'll hear from the WHO, which is appealing to member states to provide feedback to improve the organization.
We believe in continuous improvement, and we would welcome suggestions from the United States and all member states for how we can serve you and the people of the world better.
Also tonight, Energy Minister discloses government will cancel the inherited Gold for Oil program, citing huge losses and lack of transparency surrounding the deal.
The current Gold for Oil program we've inherited, we will discontinue it.
And when you say you're discontinuing that, it will not be run as of tonight?
You need some time to put a workable system in place.
Plus, thermal plants in Tema shut down as WAPCO commences maintenance work on its gas pipeline from Nigeria to Ghana. Also coming up tonight, President John Mahama announces new strategies to combat illegal mining will go beyond relying solely on security agencies, instead actively involving chiefs and the youth in finding sustainable solutions.
We're not going to make it the responsibility of only the security agencies. We're going to involve the chiefs and the young people in the communities to help to protect your own lands, your forests, and your water bodies.
We have details on his plans to present an amendment to Parliament for the Public Holidays Act to restore July 1 as holiday. Also coming up, Ablikman North constituencies call for restraint as both Irabna Obing and Ekwe Free erect billboards claiming victory when the EC is yet to officially declare the winner for that constituency.
And it's a marini, and it's a marini. But in the crabano, youth in Yepe peace. Ewa Abekuma, not Yepe peace, pa. And see, the best one is Omun Chain, Yendi Crabana, we have to thank you. Abekuma constituency, we say thank you.
Well, George Riafe will be coming our way with the latest in business.
President John Mahama expects resumption of key infrastructure projects around the country once the government completes the final leg of debt restructuring and negotiations.
And coming up in sports,
Ghana Police Service arrests 2 more suspects in connection with violence during Swachiman vs Asante Kotoko game, bringing total number of arrests to 5.
Also coming up tonight, ECOWAS demands the immediate elimination of checkpoints between Ghana, Togo, Nigeria, Benin and La Côte d'Ivoire, hindering cross-border trade.
Ghana, for instance, has one of the highest number of roadblocks when it comes to this corridor. So when you take from Accra to Aflao, at certain points, we were recording over 27 stops.
We have
details of that and more coming up on Newsnight. You can also join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp on 055 11 997 or leave your comments on our social media platforms with the hashtag Newsnight. My name is Kenneth Jesse.
I'm Faustina Sapo. Thanks for choosing us.
Hello again. And President John Dramani Mahama has made fresh appointments to fill deputy minister roles in his government. 13 of them, and we will be going through them shortly. Faustina, what do you have?
Well, we have a new deputy for the Ministry of Finance, and the person going there is Thomas Yako. We also have for the Ministry of Interior, Ebenezer Talabi. We also have for the Ministry of Defense, Ernest Jimfi. For the Ministry of Education, Clement Abbas Apak. Those of you wondering where Apak was when the president actually nominated Haruna Idris, so now you know that he's deputy for that ministry. For the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, Richard Jan Mensah.
Right, so that's the first 7, and then we continue with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, where Yusuf Sulemana is going. We also have Rita Na Odele Soa, who is going to the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, and Gisela Tete is going to deputize at the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources. We also have Yusuf Isaka Jaja, who is going to deputize at the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. And we also have John Kofi Seto Dumelo, who is going to deputize at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. And the last person on this list is Samson Ahi, who is going to the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry as the Deputy Minister. That's quite an interesting list there, Faustina.
Well, he's stuck with his 60 parameters. So far, we know he has appointed 55, and we're waiting for 5 more, hoping he won't cross the 60 line, and we'll be monitoring closely.
Yes, that's a promise that he made. Let's bring you more stories tonight. And the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, which manages tens of billions of dollars worth of U.S. foreign aid programs, is due to close on Friday, and employees will be locked out of their offices and computer systems. Well, several senior figures in the agency were placed on leave as the Trump administration took steps to fold its functions into the Department of State. Now, USAID is by far the largest humanitarian and development arm of the United States government, with a workforce of approximately 10,000 people worldwide and an annual budget of tens of billions of US dollars. And the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says the agency lacks transparency, hence the need for reforms.
This is a 90-day freeze. It allows us now to review programs. Before we did the freeze, we couldn't find out anything about some of these programs. And USAID in particular, they refuse to tell us anything. We won't tell you what the money's going to, where the money's for, who has it, which contractor it's been. In some cases, it goes through 4 different contractors before it reaches the intended recipient. These are not my numbers. These are USAID's number. In some cases with USAID, 10, 12, 13%, maybe less of the money was actually reaching the recipient, and the rest was going into the overhead and the bureaucracy. This isn't my money. This is taxpayer money. So we're not going to eliminate foreign aid. We're going to have foreign aid that makes sense. We're going to have foreign aid that works. We're going to have foreign aid that furthers the national interest. We're going to have foreign aid that benefits our trusted partners and our allies. Other programs we have questions about. But we've also issued waivers because we don't want anybody see anybody die or anybody be harmed in the short term. But we're going to conduct a review, and we are going to have foreign aid in this country that is going to further the national interest of the United States. If it doesn't make us stronger or more prosperous or more secure, we aren't going to spend taxpayer money on it. We owe that to the people of our country.
All right, so that's the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
Well, let's do more on this, because already here in Ghana, we have reports of the impact in the northern region. And join us now on phone is head of our health desk here at Joy News, and he's Joy News editor, Fred Smith, joining us with details as we try to raise him just to get the sense of what is happening in the northern region. Already the Ghana Health Service Directorate in the northern region, we know, Kenneth, has already started raising concerns about the impact this might have on the health sector. And we'll be engaging the Ghana Health Service shortly just to get a sense of what they plan to do, as well as the ministry, because it's a bigger picture and we're looking at the impact across board in the country.
And already there's been a series of statements that have been released by the Health Ministry and also the Ghana Health Service, talking about the impact that this is going to have on us and the aids that we're going to lose from the United States agency. I understand Fred Smith, head of our health desk, is on. Fred, thank you very much for joining us. You've been following this particular development keenly. There's an official statement to this effect from the United States. Tell us more.
Well, indeed, it says that all USAID direct hire personnel will be placed on administrative leave globally, with the exception of designated personnel responsible for mission-critical functions, core leadership, and specially designated programs. Well, essential personnel are expected to continue working with informed will be informed by agency leadership by Thursday, February 6th. That's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's the United States time. For USAID personnel currently posted outside the United States, the agency, in coordination with missions and the Department of State, is currently preparing a plan. And it says that's in accordance with all applicable requirements and laws, under which the agency would arrange and pay for return travel to the United States within 30 days and provide for the termination of PSC and ISC contracts that are not determined to be essential. The agency, it says, will consider case-by-case exceptions and return travel extensions based on personnel or family hardship, mobility, or safety concerns or other reasons. For example, it says that the agency will consider exceptions based on the timing of dependents' school term, personal or familial medical needs, pregnancy, and other reasons, and further guidance on how to request an exception, they say, will be provided.
Okay, Fred, so we all know that here in Ghana, the impact of the closure is being felt already, especially in northern Ghana. Briefly, tell us.
Well, indeed, an officer at the Ghana Health Service, which is the Northern Regional Director of Health Services, he has written to the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, and he says that he's informing him of the suspension of USAID support for the global procurement supply chain activities through Chamonix, including the last mile distribution, which is of health commodities. As a result, it says that Skynet Express, the logistics company engaged in transporting health commodities to self-delivery points, has been directed to freeze its services for 90 days. This development, it says that follows an executive order issued by the U.S. President Donald Trump, leading to a global freeze on U.S. foreign aid. That's the message it has sent to the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, and it says it gives a list of the suspension, how the suspension is directly impacting the some areas.
Right.
First one, it talks about procurement and supply chain management support and public health program implementation.
Okay, thank you very much. Fred Smith is the head of our health desk here at Joy News. Faustina.
Well, Ken, let's put the conversation into perspective. We're looking at the direct impact on this suspension on Ghana. How much exactly are we expecting from the USAID? Which areas are most likely to be affected? Now, thankfully, I have in the studio Isaac Kofeje. He's a data analyst, a key member of our research desk here at Joy News. Let's bring the issue back home. How much really are we getting from the USAID?
Well, firstly, so if you look at the USAID in terms of education, health, economic growth, and agriculture, as well as governance support, on average, we get about $150 million from USAID. Now, let's look at what we requested for 2025. Ghana placed a request for $137.7 million, dollars, almost $138 million for 2025. And we understand that in terms of the breakdown, health will be the biggest component, $69.2 million for health, contribution. Education takes $15.9 million. And if you look at agriculture, $33 million. And if you look at climate, also $3 million. So, in fact, if you look at that, $138 million, that is the breakdown. Biggest component goes to health and education.
Now, Kofi, let's look at the World Health Organization, really. They are like another global body affected by this cut in the USAID. What exactly is the situation as we speak?
Well, so the World Health Organization, or WHO, budget is usually between $2 to $3 billion every year. Now, we understand, per the data that we are getting from WHO, they expect a budget of $6.9 billion between 2024 and 2025. Who are they expecting to contribute to, this nearly $7 billion in budget for 2024 and 25. They're expecting 14% of this big amount from the US. In terms of that, the additional 10% is supposed to come from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They also expect some 8% from the Gov't, the Vaccine Alliance, another component coming from other places. So you can look at the pie and you see that US will take the biggest chunk, 14% of that $6.9 billion budget. Now let's break it down and put it into proper perspective. How much is US contributing in monetary terms? In 2024-2025, the WHO is expecting some $988 million from the USA. That's nearly $1 billion in terms of support. What is this going to, support in 2025, 2024? Now, we understand that for emergency operations and appeals, the U.S. was supposed to contribute $235 million. Polio eradication, $133 million. Health emergencies, $154 million. HIV, hepatitis, and then STIs, $41 million, tuberculosis $29 million, and immunization is over $16 million. So just by looking at it on health grounds, huge component is supposed to come from the US.
Thank you so much, Kofi J, for putting the issues into perspective. And because we know this is the second time that the U.S. is attempting to withdraw its support from the WHO, it's quite important to us.
It is indeed, Faustina. And the World Health Organization boss, Tedros Ghebreyesus, has been commenting on this. Let's listen to him.
We believe in continuous improvement, and we would welcome suggestions from the United States and all member states for how we can serve you and the people of the world better.
That's the World Health Organization boss, Tedros Ghebreyesus.
Well, let me bring in Kwame Sapon-Esidu, a CDD fellow. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. I'm just wondering what alternatives are really available to Ghana to help mitigate the impact of this cut.
Thanks and good evening. There's not a lot available because this has been it's come as an executive instrument. And a lot of the contracts, if you read the, Northern Regional Director of the Ghana Health Services letter, a lot of the contracts are directly between USAID and the, end suppliers and all that. So does Ghana, or for that matter, it's not a problem affecting just Ghana. It affects a lot of countries. For that matter, any country that is affected suddenly go into short-term contracts for these deliveries. And do we even have the money sitting there to pay for the logistics and all that? So there are no short-term answers. I think in the final analysis, long-term, the only thing available would be for people to speak to the United States government and see how this is resolved, because any ad hoc measures might make the situation worse. But in the long term, what we have to do is we need to realize that as a country, we cannot rely on others to be paying for our healthcare one way or the other. And as long as people are paying for our healthcare, they are most likely sometimes to pull these things on us. And when it happens, we may not have anything to fall back onto. And that for me is the learning. But one way or the other, we'll take the hit. And that's the reality.
I recall the previous administration, they were quite passionate about moving Ghana beyond aid. But we appear to have failed to actually work on that, isn't it?
Well, yes, you see, human as we are, everyone likes a bit of freebies. So if things are coming to you for next to nothing, it's very easy to say, oh, as long as it's coming, I don't need to think out of the box and try and resolve my issues to ensure that I'm self-sufficient. So yes, we said Ghana beyond aid, but really, what did we do to ensure that the country was actually beyond aid? Very little. And at the moment, the financial situation as a country we find ourselves in, it would be very difficult to say the government, even though the budget hasn't been drawn because they are yet to draw the budget, should find this amount of money. You are talking about $69 million. That is a lot of money. Should suddenly find that money just for health. And then you are looking at the other sectors that make up the 137 million. It's asking for a bit too much because we are not prepared and we do not have the deep pockets to go and do things like this. So for me, short term, whether we like it or not, we would have to play ball with the United States to try and find a way around this corner. But while we do that, we should learn to start weaning ourselves on some of these development partner assistance, because not all of them would be this ruthless. I mean, the last time anything like this happened was under Donald Trump, when he threatened to pull out of the WHO. And lo and behold, 5 years later, he's done the same thing. So what it tells us is, often you might have leaders that might be sympathetic to the cause of countries like Ghana. But if you have one who wants to pull the brakes, there's very little you can do about it. And for me, that's the learning.
Should Ghana consider looking at other donor funding, for example, China, the EU?
Well, this brings in health geopolitics. Should Ghana consider looking at it? Ghana is always looking at it. We get development assistance from so many parts of the world. The question is, every development assistance comes at a cost. There's nothing like a free lunch. So if you say, should Ghana look at China? Already, the United States is in a tough war with China. And they've already started a trade war. What are the political implications for Ghana as a country if the United States begins to perceive that we are shifting too much to China? So these are things that our government needs to take time. And that's why I said there needs to be a long-term strategy. Our government needs to take time and look at the trade-offs and decide what it wants to do. But ultimately, what is done should be to the benefit of Ghana. So it's not just a short term and say, oh, I'm going to go to the EU, I'm going to go to China. You need to have a strategy. And the question for me is, as it stands now, with Donald Trump pulling the plug with an executive instrument, do we have a fallback? And the answer seems to be no.
Thank you, Kwame Sapoinsidi, for your time here on Newsnight. Now, let's shift our attention to other stories. With prostate and liver cancer identified as one of the leading causes of cancer-related deaths in Ghana, the Ghana Health Service is intensifying its education on this deadly disease, focusing on prevention, early detection, and life-saving interventions. Now, though the service does not have cases currently, its 2022 research revealed some startling data about diagnosis and deaths associated with cancers. And Ken, you've been looking at the numbers. Just run us through some of the key things you found.
Yes, and according to the acting director general of the Ghana Health Service, who has been speaking about it, he says that global estimates show that in 2022 there were an estimated 20 million new cancer cases with associated 9.7 million deaths. That is about 1 in 5 people develop cancer in their lifetime. Let's hear from Dr. Kaba.
In Ghana, the estimated number of new cancer cases in 2022 was 27,385, with 17,944 deaths, with an estimated 63,764 persons having survived cancer in Ghana. This year, Ghana Health Service is shining the limelight on cancers which occur in males, prostate and liver. Although these cancers are among the leading causes of death in Ghana, they are unfortunately not highlighted enough.
Right, so that's what he said. And in Ghana specifically, the estimated number of new cancer cases in 2022, for example, was more than 27,000, with 17,000 deaths, with an estimated 63,000 persons having survived cancer in Ghana. Faustina.
Alarming figures there. I can't imagine what the numbers are currently 2025 if they complete the collation of 2024 figures.
It is alarming indeed, and that is the reason why the Ghana Health Service is shining the limelight on cancers which occur especially in males, and it is because although these cancers are among the leading causes of death in Ghana. So these are the numbers, a bit startling. We cannot go through all of them, though, but briefly, with prostate cancer, for example, we have over 2,300 cases with a mortality rate of above 50%. With liver cancers also, you have more than 2,600 cases, with more than 90% of those people suffering from that disease succumbing to death. So these figures are what are raising the concerns for the Ghana Health Service, indeed.
So how are they using this new measure outlined for prevention and care for those diagnosed?
Well, they say that they are going heavy on improved healthy diet, advocating physical activity, for example, vaccination for hepatitis A and B, and creating social support systems for persons who have been diagnosed.
Now let's go to the Ashanti region, where the Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Adumaku-Boateng, has also mentioned that cancer cases in there has actually surged by 33.6% in 2024. He has some current figures.
Yes, and he adds that breast cancer cases escalated dramatically by more than 90%, while cervical cancer showed a substantial increase of 75.17%. And he has been attributing the alarming records to late diagnosis, poor outcomes, and premature mortality.
The Ghana Health Service is joining the global movement calling for greater emphasis on people-centered care to address prostate and liver cancers in men in Ghana in Ashanti region. Although these cancers are among the leading causes of death in the country, they are unfortunately not highlighted enough for various reasons. And together with all partners, the media, government and non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, and our advocates, we must promote advocacy, awareness, and behavioral change communication. More especially for we the men, to increase the uptake of men cancer, specifically prostate and liver cancers, interventions throughout the spectrum of healthcare, especially screening and early diagnosis, particularly in our low resource areas that we find ourselves.
Right, and the Ghana Health Service have admitted they have not been able to identify all cases of cancer in the country, and a significant portion of cancer deaths occur in low and middle income countries like Ghana, where thousands of new cancer cases and deaths are reported each year.
Well, Ken, in response, the service has announced plans to compile a comprehensive register of all cancer cases in the country. This was revealed during the commemoration of this year's World Cancer Day. There's more in this report.
The 2025 World Cancer Day celebration in Ghana, themed United in Unique, shines a spotlight on cancer survivors, their resilience, struggles, and victories. A health practitioner and cancer survivor, Hannah Tete, shares a journey of overcoming neglect and financial barriers in accessing treatment.
2024, early January, I have to consider doing it. And by January 2024, last year, I made the deposit. I came to do the biopsy at Zurich. The results came and I have to go and do a second. I was still healing from the first surgery I did. Within 2 weeks, you have to repeat your surgery again. I didn't know what to do.
Acting Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Samuel Kaba Akarie, emphasized that over 70% of cancer deaths occur in low and middle income countries, including Ghana.
Realize that in Ghana we don't have a cancer registry, and that is something I've already promised someone, one of the oncologists. She will be landing on Monday. We are going to work on it to have a cancer registry. Our country estimates for this leading cancer in 2022 were as follows: prostate cancer, 2,395 cases with 1,233 deaths. Liver cancer, 2,656 cases in men with 2,390 deaths. That was over 70% of cancer deaths occur in low and middle income countries such as Ghana.
Jennifer August, reporting for Joy News.
Well, we stay on health-related issues, and this time a study has revealed that microplastics from plastic bags, bottles, and synthetic clothing are now in the air, food, and water, with traces found in liver, placenta, blood, and even testicles. More of that in our Health Desk report.
The study found a rising trend in micro and nanoplastics in brain tissue from dozens of postmortems carried out between 1997 and 2024. The researchers also found the tiny particles in liver and kidney samples. They have also been found in blood, semen, breast milk, placentas, and bone marrow. The impact on human health is largely unknown, but they have been linked to strokes and heart attacks. The most common plastics found was polythene, which is used in plastic bags and food and drink packaging. It's made up 75% of the total waste on average. Plastic use, especially for cups, plates, and other forms of packaging, is significantly high, predisposing almost every Ghanaian to the dangers discovered by the researchers.
That's quite a worrying trend when it comes to cancers in this country, and particularly with breast cancer. Faustina, the doctors have said that the best way to identify that you have breast cancer is to have regular checkups.
Yeah, I did.
Have you been doing that?
I did last year in October during the whole campaign month, Pink October. Have you also gotten your prostate checked?
I have indeed, and breast cancer does not happen only in women. Men can also.
Oh, so you also checked?
Yes, it is very important to be doing that, and the businessman is here to take over.
George, why are you
laughing? George, have you also been doing examination?
Yes, I do my prostate check.
Good.
And it's very interesting for the black men, or if I can use that expression. You have a very high rate of getting prostate. And you don't even have to wait to get to that certain age. As young as you are, just do the regular test. It's now more simpler now than the physical examination, taking the blood sample. Do that than putting the hand behind and all the rest. So I think that it's good if you are a black man. You have a very high rate of getting that. So check it as smooth as you can.
Thank you, George. And it's time for business.
Oh, coming up, President John Mahama expects resumption of key infrastructure projects across the country once government completes the final leg of debt negotiations with the commercial creditors. And first, Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana nomination likely to be someone coming from the Bank of Ghana. The Business News on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your offers, essentials, Sinter's tanks, and Pepsodent, Herbal, and Charcoal. You welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, President John Mahama has named the Member of Parliament for Sujuman Thomas Nyakwampe as Minister Designate, that is Deputy Minister Designate for Finance. Now, this was captured in the first batch of Deputy Ministerial nominations coming from the presidency. Now, there is more on this Deputy Minister of Finance Designate and other nominations covering some critical sectors of the economy.
Thomas Nyakwampe was the chairman of the Budget Committee for the 8th Parliament, which just ended on January 7, 2025. He has also served on the Local Government and Rural Committee, as well as the Gender and Children. In terms of work experience, he once served as the District Chief Executive and the Finance Director of the Inter-Ministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization. He has been the Member of Parliament for Isujaman constituency since 2017. On education, he holds a Master of Science in Finance from the Virginia Commonwealth University, USA, Bachelor of Social Science from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Meanwhile, the president has also nominated other personalities that will be of interest for the business community. One can talk about the Member of Parliament for Ayawaso West Wugon, John Dumelo, as the Deputy Minister Designate for Agric. The Member of Parliament for Gumua West, Richard Jan Mensah, as the Deputy Minister Designate for Energy and Green Transition. Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan Suine, has been nominated as Minister Designate for Roads and Highways. Also, the Member of Parliament for Ewutu Senya West as Deputy Minister Designate for Works, Housing and Water Resources.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, President John Mahama has revealed that he's expecting work to resume on some key infrastructure projects across the country once government finalized a deal with the commercial creditors. Now, this was after an agreement was reached with the bilateral creditors and the official creditor committee last month. President John Mahama disclosed during his thank you tour in the Western region.
Ghana has been involved in the debt exchange, and the debt exchange has affected the projects that were packaged under the Sino Hydro program. Currently, I've finished negotiations with the official creditors and are soon to start negotiations with the commercial creditors. I believe that this will pave the way for us to continue the Takrade interchange project. We also will look at the Agip-Agona dualization project and also the Nzima Enclave roads. We're also looking at the railways to expand the connection from the railways along the Western Corridor in order that we can haul bauxite and manganese to the truck-ready port. There is also a proposal for funding under a build, operate and transfer scheme to continue the railway to Burkina Faso so that we can take cargo meant for Burkina Faso through the Takoradi port.
President John Mahama. Now, President John Mahama is likely to look within the Bank of Ghana over who he nominates as the first deputy governor of that institution. Now, this is what we have picked up from persons with knowledge of these nominations. Details in the following Business Desk report.
It has always been the practice in the past that out of the 3 central bank governors, one is nominated from the Bank of Ghana. This is to ensure that the required institutional knowledge is not lost, especially when the 2 other governors are coming from outside. If this nomination is made before the end of this month, that could see the Bank of Ghana have 3 governors in place. That is, Dr. Johnson Isiama, this new person that will be nominated by President John Mahama, and the current 2nd Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Elsie Aduawaji. Dr. Maxwell Opoku Afari today took his leave, leading up to the end of his contract in August this year.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Itwahin has disclosed that the latest concerns coming from the minority in Parliament about the current governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, can be described as much ado about nothing. It is coming after the minority in Parliament revealed that they will write to the IMF to let them stop dealing with the new governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama. This is due to questions surrounding his takeover and some charges that were leveled against him. Now, these charges were dropped recently. Now, he says that the development in court last year showed that there wasn't any case to answer.
Why have they delayed for nearly 5 years and couldn't prosecute him? If there was a case of substance, an issue, they could have done that. You see, they could have done that. And because I am sure the Attorney General, Dr. Ayani, in less than no time, he will tell you that there is no case. Because you see, you had all the time, the years, the months, the days, and you could not even prosecute him. Why? Go back to Bank of Ghana and ask them, do they have any case to prosecute him which they couldn't prosecute? You don't make noise when you had the opportunity to do the whether it's the right thing or right. You didn't do it, and then you go back and make no noise. I call it noise. Let us say the country. Let me make this position clear. The country is not in a good position this afternoon. They say Ghana and Nigeria are going to suffer 2025. Go and read the Lord and Tuch report.
Right.
Now who caused that?
Banking consultant Dr. Richmond Itwahin is speaking there on the Pulse on Joy News. Now, Nanto Electrical Services has showcased its new 0 Nano 3 electric vehicles EV as part of efforts to promote sustainable mobility in the country. Chief Executive Samuel J. Boatin walked the newsroom through the features of this new electronic cars, highlighting what it brings to users of the vehicle.
Today, we are introducing our new serial Nano 3 electric vehicle. You heard about electric vehicle, maybe in the radio and the TV, but today we've brought it into the Ghanaian market. This car, you don't need fuel. You don't also need any maintenance. It's less maintenance. This is not a car that you're going to change your oil and grease and stuff like this. You don't need it. You need just a socket in your home, or the socket where you plug your mobile phone. That's what you need to charge this car. There's also a backup. Jan said that we are giving you a portable generator, digital generator, just in case there is no electricity at home, you can still use it to charge. Except we have a spare parts, after sales service, everything about it, and to take care of it. Gives you everything that you need, the comfort, the airbag system, power windows, power steering, LED screens, airbag system, air conditioning. This car, when it's fully charged, you can run 205 kilometers.
Chief Executive of Anointed Engineering Services, Samuel J. Boatin, talking about the new 0 Nano 3 electronic vehicles EV there. And it's time, that's all for business on the News Night, and it's time for Schwartz, and Daniel Kanting is here with the latest in Schwartz News.
Let's go straight into the stories. And the Ghana Police Service has arrested 2 more suspects in connection with the violent disturbances that resulted in the death of a fan during the Ghana Premier League game between Nswachiman FC and Asante Kotoko on Sunday. The newly arrested suspects, Isaac Ofusu and Yeboah Augustine, are currently in police custody, assisting with ongoing investigations. This is the latest development, the latest development brings a total number of suspects arrested to 5 as authorities intensify efforts to apprehend all individuals. The Inspector General of Police, George Ekufo-Dampare, has confirmed his outfit is pursuing a 6th suspect who has gone into hiding.
And we are currently pursuing a few, including a female that we are working on, who has been in hiding. But the question is, for how long can you run? And for how long? Or how far can you run? And for how long can you hide? After allegedly contributing to the situation that we face. So we want to use this to assure the family of Yao, to assure the family, the Asante Kotoko Football Club family, the GFA, and the football fraternity of the country that will stop at nothing in getting the people involved arrested.
You had IGP George Ekufo-Dampare speaking there. Still on the matter, the Ghana Football Association has summoned all Premier League clubs for an emergency meeting tomorrow in relation to the Nswachiman versus Kotoko clashes. The meeting will primarily focus on addressing security concerns and other related matters. Topics to be discussed include stadium safety, fan behavior, and emergency response controls. That's all for sports. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Let's bring in more stories tonight as President John Mahama has announced that new strategies to combat illegal mining, otherwise known as galamsey, will extend beyond the use of security agencies. Instead, his approach will actively involve chiefs and the youth in developing sustainable solutions. He was speaking during his thank you tour in the Western region.
You have stood up to say that you will fight galamsey. When you are being introduced here, they used a phrase and they called you Commander-in-Chief. Stop galamsey. Look at deforestation. Look at our soil erosion. Look at the contamination of our water bodies. We have too much in common, and the livelihoods of our farmers, fisherfolk, and the local community. Mr. President, continue your strong stance against galamsey. Already appreciate the steps your administration has taken thus far to fight this menace, and we urge you to do even more. We need stronger enforcement, better resources, more education on the dangers of illegal mining, protecting our environment and ensuring the long-term health of our land and water bodies is crucial, not just for the Western region, for the entire nation. We, together, will help you to eradicate galamsey and restore our precious resources. This region is also well known for cocoa production, besides rubber. But you know how important cocoa is in our country, and that is why the fight against galamsey, it is crucial. Please revitalize the cocoa sector, which has long been the backbone of the Western region's agricultural economy. The farmers in this region have dedicated themselves to producing some of the finest cocoa beans in the world, contributing significantly to Ghana's position as a global leader in cocoa exports. Mr. President, we are humbly appealing to you to continue prioritizing cocoa production and to invest in our farmers' future.
Right, so you heard there the Omanhene of the Esikado traditional area, Nana Kwabena Nketia, who in his speech raised concerns about how illegal mining is destroying the environment. We can now hear from President John Mahama over the new strategies to eliminate the illegal mining menace.
Your own son, Ama Kofi-Boa, is formulating strategies for the implementation of our manifesto promise for dealing with this galamsey menace. Our plan will involve the communities, including the chiefs and the youth, to take part in protecting their lands and forests and water bodies. We're not going to make it the responsibility of only the security agencies. We're going to involve the chiefs and the young people in the communities to help to protect your own lands, your forests, and your water bodies. We'll take urgent steps to halt mining activities in our forest reserves and on our rivers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm grateful to note that the recent cholera outbreak is abating, but I urge you, our fellow citizens, to continue to take protective action by making sure that your sources of drinking water are safe and that you take the necessary steps to avoid being attacked by cholera.
Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Ogawa joins us from the Western region, where President John Dramani Mahama has been addressing other key issues. Maxwell, I'm quite interested in where he says that he will present an amendment to Parliament for Public Holidays Act to restore July 1 as a holiday.
Yes, Faustina. So he mentioned that right at the program where we had the traditional leaders, the clergy, members of Parliament, party supporters and residents, gathered at the Secondary Methodist Park. Now, during his speech, he thanked the residents for their massive support in voting for the NDC in the 2024 elections, which saw the NDC win 15 out of 17 parliamentary seats. And then he went ahead to announce that the government will soon present an amendment to the Public Holidays Act that will be presented to Parliament soon to restore July 1 as a holiday. In addition to that also, he says that amendment would also see the additional holiday that he promised on the campaign trail for the Muslim community as well.
Mighty God, as enjoined by the Holy Book that says that in all things give thanks. We will thank God for his beautiful blessings on our nation, Ghana. And I'll soon announce a planning committee made up of religious leaders to plan the National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. I propose that this National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving should be held on 1st July, which is also a Republic Day and also marks Senior Citizens Day. Nananum, my brothers and sisters, we will soon present to Parliament amendments to the Public Holidays Act in order that we can restore July 1st as a holiday.
Well, away from the Western region, let's talk energy, as the Sector Minister John Jinapor has served notice of cancelling the inherited Gold for Oil program instituted by the erstwhile administration. The Gold for Oil program, which was introduced as a means to leverage the country's reserves in exchange for petroleum products, has come under intense scrutiny. Speaking to my colleague Blessed Soga last night, he said the current system is deeply flawed and will be replaced with a more transparent alternative.
The current Gold for Oil program we've inherited, we will discontinue it. Take it from me.
And when you say you're discontinuing that, it will not be run as of tonight?
You need some time to put a workable system in place. If you want to set up a gold board, you have to go to Parliament. It has to have some legal backing. In the interim, we are trying to shape the current system and ensure that we reduce the losses and make it a bit more transparent. But ultimately, we want to replace this whole Gold for Oil program and put in place a much more effective.
And the question will be obvious. What will be the replacement, knowing that we're struggling with our international financial reserves future? Because you're still running the IMF program, which the government will still continue.
Yes, but the IMF is not against gold pitches. And so if you have one body, which is the gold board, responsible for procuring all the gold domestically, either through agents or in collaboration with the private sector, we hold the gold board responsible. And so based on the tonnage that is bought every year, they would account for all the revenues in a dedicated account.
Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, Dr. Riverson Opong, added that the Gold for Oil deal did not bring the expected reduction in fuel prices as promised.
But the question about if there's a potential of the Gold for Oil to curb the high prices of fuel, I believe the notion that Gold for Oil transaction alone will lead to lower fuel prices is a bit of misconception in the long run, because we have seen how this was introduced, and also the fact that absolutely didn't curb energy security in any way, but rather in the latter days of the year, we saw energy in terms of fuel shortage in the country because the BDCs could not plan along with the growth for oil fuel supply, and therefore were reluctant in importing. Okay, and then also in terms of the pricing, did Gulf oil bring prices down as we anticipated? The answer is a big no. So we, the industry players, are waiting to hear from the government on what it intends to bring on board to replace the existing framework.
Meanwhile, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, urged the John Mahama administration to focus on improving the capacity of local refineries instead of prioritizing the gold for oil policy.
And the conversation is, let's substitute gold for oil. Let's find a way so that the CD or the currency depreciation could be halted. Look, we'll be chasing the whirlwind. These conversations will be had today, will be had next year, will be had, a decade after. We need to revisit what I have almost always referred to as your buffer cushioning. If you decide that you are not going to allow your refinery to contribute significantly to petroleum security, you are simply planning to fail. The truth is that it would come just like every other government policy that we've seen in the past. It will come with a very beautiful propositioning. But if you don't anchor it on a rather more solid, strategy, you are simply planning to fail.
Thermal plants in Tema have shut down following the commencement of maintenance work by WAPCO on its gas pipeline from Nigeria to Ghana. Michael, you've been going through that statement. Tell us more.
Well, firstly, I'll move straight to the impact on what GridCo says. It says that this means that the thermal plants in Tema will not have gas to operate and will have to shut down to minimize the impact on power supply in the country. Stakeholders in the energy sector, led by the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, have procured volumes of liquid fuel for some generating plants in Tema that have the capacity to operate on alternative fuel to enable them to remain in operation during the period of the pigging. The Ghana Grid Company Limited and other stakeholders are working around the clock to mitigate any potential power supply challenges that might arise from the shutdown. So, firstly, this is exactly what GridCo is saying. They're working around the clock to try and mitigate them, keep the lights on.
Thank you, Michael Ashali. And that's how we wrap up the bulletin. But let's take some of your comments before we go. Some of you have been sharing your thoughts on our social media handles. And this is from Asidia. She says that it's time for Ghana to be independent of foreign donors. The time is now. And she's calling, sending a message all the way from Tema.
Right. And before we go, Faustina, Strong and Sassy is coming up next with Akofa. Akofa, I'm curious to know, what are you discussing today?
Today we're talking about what self-love is. That is, if you've heard of the concept, but you don't know much about it, or you don't know how to get there. Well, we have a wellness coach joining us today to give us all of the
I can see
deets.
you are really ready for tonight.
You have no idea. You have no idea. So yes, stick and stay.
Okay, so Akofa is up next after this. My name is Jesse.
I am Faustina Safo. Good evening.